My name is Luzarin, and I have a story to tell. I did not become a scumbag outcast. I had been born this way. From the stories told by the elders in my encampment where I was born. Many years ago our elders had freedoms unimaginable in today's dystopian world. False flags followed by pandemics, accompanied by more of the same. They were told each time, the loss of a few individual freedoms is a small price to pay for the safety, security, and the good of the whole. And just like that, a few months imprisoned, a surgically implanted BCU, and I am dropped to certain death for the amusement of the populace.
Okay. This might work here. I see a city to myself. And a small homestead just north of me. First, I should get some weapons for survival. And head to that small house and shelter down while I figure out my next move. Damn, this is nuts. How did it all come to people being treated like this?
At some point in the past, genetic modifications had been developed. This new science had all but eliminated illness and cancers, if you could afford the procedure. But in time, DNA modifications became more available, improving health, mental acuity, and physical capabilities. And then it became mandatory. Only the compliant and improved humans were allowed to purchase food, work, rent housing, and even breed. And what of the others? Well, they took to the wilderness, considered weaker, slower, dumber, undesirable, and unwanted. They held a sense of pride in it all. Sovereignty and freedom was their battle cry. Building encampments and homesteads on the outskirts of society. They loved, raised families and work land they had claimed. Good people deemed lawless, forced to live off the land, redeveloping their survival skills.
Okay. Here I am. I pray my family will not find their way here. Before I can figure a way off this island. And back to them. Let me see. I know how to make a few things. Just a couple. Primitive skills needed for survival back home.
As generations of rebels bred in the areas outside of government control, increasing pressure built on the politicians. The oligarchs were not having any dissent. Big tech companies offered the governments a solution to their growing rebel problems. Tech 1. The company in control of science and media could see value in the rebels. These undesired people could be experimented on. Their non-modified genes were ripe for all sorts of horrific possibilities. And better yet, no one would care. They could also see a future in the development of the genetically altered for military purposes. A collection of mutants placed on an island, with a few of the rebels. Those who were showing an aptitude for intelligence and physical abilities are implanted with BCU chips. This chip is placed in the back of my head, taking all sorts of information. The BCU collects DNA data as well as health and brain activity. It is said the BCU captures your soul. Tech 1 then uses the information to clone you exactly as you were upon death. And they drop you back on the island, trapped in combat. It is believed this chip traps the conscience in forever. My hardships here forward will be broadcasted to the population for amusement. Through my suffering the world will have conversations at the office water cooler. Tech 1 now sends out task forces to disrupt encampments and capture all rebels they can. The luck get away. We fight back, protecting our neighbors and families. By the time anyone is captured, they have plenty to charge us with. But before their aggressions, well, we all would rather just be left alone.
Get a few things going here. I'm not sure what I'm up against. I think a bag and a simple bow and arrow set will suffice just until maybe a little luck will shine on me today.
And that is what happened to me. I am 47 years old. I have 2 children and a grandchild. Married. My wife and I are both undesirables. Born of parents who also refused to be modded. I had been taught at a young age to survive. Where to find good plants to eat, how to hunt, sew clothing, and grow my own crops. I can build shelters and find water. When they came for us, we fought hard. There were only 27 of us in total. They captured my son. Myself, my wife, daughter, and grandchild managed to get away. I went back for my son. That day was like any other. I have lived 47 years and never once had any run-ins with Tech 1 agents. When in town bartering, we would hear stories. One time while in town talking with an old-timer having a coffee at his house, I even caught a glimpse at the broadcast of the island. The old man explained to me that what I was watching was a criminal, and his sentence was to survive. At the time it did not seem like much. Just a guy working a piece of land in the woods. Later someone else explained it more in depth. But even still it seems unlikely I would ever have to worry about such a thing. My people were peaceful. We kept to ourselves. We did not own weapons. Just the bow and spears we used for hunting. More and more word kept coming our way. That simple program was getting very popular in the city nearest our encampment. Some of our own moved further away in fear. And some of us stayed. We had been dug in now. Some of us worked farms our grandparents built in the early days of the Exodus. We were warned. Tech 1 was coming. In hindsight, I suppose we just did not understand. The life laid down by my relatives was all I knew. We were never threatened before. I was once told, those who find themselves in power will only crave more power. But I digress. That day was normal. I was with the cattle. My wife and daughter had the little one and had been out picking berries. My son was in the commons of our encampment drawing water from the well for us. In an instant, bang! An explosion like I have never heard before, followed by bangs and pops. I ran towards the center of the encampment, towards the well where my son was, hoping he was okay, and I needed to see if anyone else needed help. Fizz! Pop! Crack! I was confused. I had never heard gunfire before, especially shots so close to their mark whizzing past with deafening anger. It was a long run to the well. Our encampment took up a great amount of space. The lands were full of farms and pastures dotted by small log homes. Not knowing I should take cover. Crack! I could feel a sharp pain as a wound on my shoulder was torn open. Knocked off balance. I dropped to the ground and could see I was bleeding. But the shots now were being aimed in a different direction. They were slowing down and I could hear yelling. Loud, strong, authoritative voices, barking out orders. I peeped above the tall weeds and could see the house in the distance. Had a line of neatly dressed men in dark uniforms lined up at the door. The one in front closest to the door gave it a solid kick, busting it open. Then another loud bang and the windows I could see from my vantage point flashed with light, and the group of soldiers rushed into the house one after another. At this point, I realized what was happening. The threat I dismissed has arrived at our homes. At that point, I had decided to fall back and find my wife, to warn her to get our daughter and grandchild far from here. We all knew of the cave under the waterfall about 3 miles from our home. Everyone found recreation and relief from the summer's heat there. So find her I did. She would take the other to the cave and wait there. As for me, I could not just go. I had to see if I could stop the invasion. I ran back to my home and grabbed my bow, wrapping my shoulder fast with a bandage. I then low-crawled back to where the commotion was, hiding behind a log shed close to the center of the camps. I could see a man talking to a megaphone.
Come in. Give yourselves up. You will be treated fairly. If we have to hunt you down, we have no promises for you.
Got a fast bite, and a place I can gather my thoughts and think of my next move. I will rest here and make a plan. Until next time, scumbags. Like and subscribe for more.